Vice News is gone.
Does it make you nostalgic, Tim?
It breaks my heart. It breaks my heart. Vice News Tonight formally shut down. And I just think it's funny that you've got these Vice News staffers that are like, to the original crew that helped launch Vice News, we changed the game, blah, blah. I'm like, that's me.
You're like
you're talking about me, right? Because like you guys don't like me. But I was thinking of like retweeting them and being like, thank you. Thank you for the compliment. So for those that don't know, I was the first person hired at Vice to start Vice News. There was no Vice News. They hired me. And then like 6 months later, they were like, should we create a news division, like a brand for this? And then they did. And I was, so they had news in the sense that Vice would make documentaries and then they would say like, it's a news thing. And then eventually decided to launch a specific brand called Vice News. I was the first person. And so I brought new methodologies, new technologies and reporting styles. They then hired a bunch of people. I left after about a year and a few months. And then they went woke. Real quick. It was really creepy. Over like a year after I left, the company just went woke. And it was so weird because when I was there, it was like sex, drugs, and rock and roll.
Tumblr was still around. As soon as they got sex off of Tumblr, all the woke stuff got spilled out into the rest of the internet.
Did you feel it like coming when you were there at all, or it was just like
absolutely not? And I mean, there was corporatizing. You could feel that. But apparently, what happened was a friend of mine who was a higher up said that they had faced too many sexual harassment lawsuits. And so the investors came to them and said, the only way out of this is to embrace feminism. And they said, you got it. And that was their defense against being sued for sexual harassment and stuff.
Wow. So does this mean Vice, and I don't fully understand this, Vice is just gone, or is Vice still a thing?
Vice is a thing.
Vice News
Vice News Tonight is being canceled and they're laying a bunch of people off. So they'll still have something called Vice News, but the main show that was on TV for the past decade is gone.
Ah, so is this the first TV show gone and as the internet is taking over? Is that what this is?
No, it's just get woke, go broke. Oh, okay. They burn themselves to the ground. The first show they had was called Vice, and it was amazing. The first show, just Vice, was so good. Man, Vice back in the day, for people who know it, it was basically four dudes. It was Serge, it was Shane, it was who was the other guy? Was it? No, Gavin was gone at this point. They had four hosts of their show. And I can't remember their names. And then the show was basically like weird travel stuff. It was traveling on the world to crazy places and exploring. And then I guess what happened was HBO wanted to cancel it. And so they announced abruptly before HBO can re-upped it that they were already being renewed for a new season, which forced HBO's hand. But then HBO came back. I don't know if this is true. This is what I heard when I worked there. HBO came back and said, how dare you? And they were like, too bad, you're locked in now. It's been announced to the press and everyone's expecting it. And so then HBO was like, if we're going to do it, then changes have to be made. And here's the best part. I was told that I couldn't host for them because I was a white dude.
That doesn't seem racist at all. Oh my goodness.
But I was like, but I'm actually mixed race. And they're like, yeah, but you know,
not
like, you're a guy who looks too white. And so they were like, you can notice this too when you look at the Vice on HBO staff. They bring in like an Indian guy, some women. They brought in a bunch of women. And so when I had joined them, I said, I want to be an on-air host and I will bring my brand and the work that I do. And they agreed. And then sure enough, I asked them and they were like, two things. One, fair point. I did not have hosting experience for documentary. So I was doing like basically what I'm doing now. And they wanted more pizzazz. Totally fair. So they had me host some stuff. But then when it came to HBO, they said, you're a white dude, have a nice day, get lost. They didn't say it like that. They're just like, look, we've got a mandate. They want, you know, people of color and women.
But they just straight up said it.
Oh yeah, hands down. I mean, I was told the same thing by Fusion when I worked there, the ABC News company. When they did, they had the Black and Brown Forum. And they brought in, they had like three of their senior talent, staff talent, and then one external guy. And this is like Hillary Clinton and Bernie Sanders were being questioned by a panel of journalists. And so they just said nothing to me. And so I go to the president and I was like, is there a reason you guys had the other main talent and not me, your like senior reporter? And the guy goes, oh, it's because it's racist because you're white. Literally told me that. And then I was like, but I'm mixed. He's like, yeah, but come on, man. And I was like, I mean, hey, like the dude's kind of cool. I get it. I mean, he was just a businessman.
That's when
Said
you
it
call
outright.
up the makeup
EOC.
artist for Tropic Thunder, and then you're like, "Do me up," and I'm gonna go back in there.
I just thought that was so funny. I was like, okay, well, all right then.
And when was that? How many years ago was that?
This is 2014 or 15. I think 2015, because it was like the presidential election. They were having Bernie Sanders and Hillary Clinton, and they were going to be questioned by people. And it was called the Black and Brown Forum. And then I was like, I guess being like Asian doesn't count. Like I don't count as like part of this diverse America. And keep in mind too, because a lot of people might want to say like, Tim, your politics. No. This is almost a decade ago. And I had no politics. Like I had politics, but I wasn't doing anything like this.
Yeah.
My videos were all like, I'm here on the ground in Fukushima, Japan, and there's radiation.
You were
everywhere.
a journalist.
That's
You
all
were
I was
like-
doing.
Yeah.
There was no like me coming in the office and being like, here's what I think about the wage gap. Here's what I think about guns. It was literally just like, oh, I did it. I did a documentary on police brutality and the Ferguson riots. And that was what I worked on. And then when it came to this, they outright said, you look too white. You can't be involved. And like, that's the world they wanted to create. So get woke, go broke. Good riddance to all of you.
If only your genetics had performed slightly differently and you look slightly more Asian.
I mean,
That's like the most, like, it's so disgusting to hear people talk like that, but like, it sounds.
Sounds like it would have helped you in this case anyway, though. In this case, being more Asian wouldn't have helped.
Yeah. I think they don't like Asian people. No, I mean, it probably would have. It probably would have. But I actually lobbied to him. I was like, isn't it fair to say that like a mixed race person is representative of a changing America and should have a voice? And he was just like, you look white, dude.
You have to like bring your grandma with you. Be like, no, for real, look, I can prove it. Like, that's so weird.
Pulling Elizabeth Warren and be like, I'm actually this. Yeah.
Well, they would let her in.
No,
that's the funny thing. They'd be like, welcome, please sit down. Tell us about your native tribe. But that's why I can't stand all the woke people in the race theory stuff and the ideology is because it's all lies. It's all just not true. Luke Rakowski's a person of color. He's got blonde hair and blue eyes. What's going on? Oh, he's Polish. So
Slavic.
That's right. But Asians overperform, so we don't count. And then I'm mostly white, so I just
Ridiculous.
I mean, you guys are good at literally everything, no matter what. So
That is true. That's right. We made gunpowder before you guys.
it's true.
And the compasses.
Yep.
Yeah. Whatever, man. Good riddance to a bad problem.
Did you see that they just had the state dinner with South Korea, and we invited all of our like South Korean adjacent influencers, like Maddox Pitt Jolie. He went with his mom Angelina, and like Joanna Gaines was there. It made me very uncomfortable, but maybe people liked it. I don't know.
Wait, like the White House brought...
So like the president of South Korea is visiting, so they have a state dinner. And
they invited
this is
Asian
typical.
people?
Yeah, like when they had the Canadian one a couple years ago, Blake Lively and her husband, because he's Canadian, got to go. And this time, they always invite some celebrities. So it was like Joanna Gaines, who does the Waco, house stuff. And she's also, I don't remember what percentage, but she's also of Korean descent. And then Angelina Jolie went with her son, who is... of South Korean descent. And I think he even lives there now. I'm not totally sure. But it did feel a little bit like weird. I don't know. Maybe no one else felt that way. Slightly, right?
Pandering is the strategy nowadays. I mean, it's what you have to do to
Absolutely.
survive. Well, or die, I guess, in this case.
Yeah, I don't know. I guess maybe they wouldn't invite me to something like that because it would be offensive to the Korean people because the older generation are very racial supremacist.
Joanna Gaines went. She's mixed.
But is she half?
I don't know. Maybe.
Because she passes as Korean.
But I think she can also pass as white.
Yeah.
I feel like this is going to get...
Everybody
There's no
just
way
thinks
for me
I'm
to talk about
Mexican.
this in a way
Just
that's
the best
okay.
of both worlds, where you can pass as two different...
And she brought her white husband.
Most
so
most of my life, white people just assumed I was Mexican. Because like the way, but for real, like the way my facial hair grows,
Right.
and they just be like, they'd be like, oh, you're Mexican.
So you have the best of all three worlds, is what you're saying.
I guess, unless you're surrounded by woke people who just don't want to be dealing with what you are, because in their world, if they can't define you by race, they can't define you at all.
They're going to be horribly racist.
Well,
anyway,
there's a
so-
solution. You just have to be trans, and then you're at the top. You're at the pinnacle.
That's true.
If you do
That's
that.
true.
That's true.
Yeah, that is the meta content move. Is to be
Be
trans.
like,
The meth-
if I
It
told
is.
you my sexual preference, would that put me at the higher portion of the
It's
list?
probably a little.
And then
little
they're like,
lower, but up
wait.
there.
They're like, maybe.
It's like you go to these meetings and they say like, hey, you Phil, you can't come in here. And then he goes, what if I told you my sexual preference? I'm listening.
I'm Polly.
Oh, that puts you 15.
Yeah.
That's so.
You win.
You don't get to host, but you do occasionally get to be a featured guest.
So it is funny. So with government contracting, that is a thing. Like when there's a bid out there for purchasing a thing, it's like if they're a female-owned business, if they're veteran-owned, if they're disabled, and if they, I believe, race is another one. So there are companies that literally will pick a CEO who can stack as many of these things as possible to be the tiebreaker for contracts.
Well,
so like it's already a structure.
This is good news.
in place.
Timcast is a minority-owned company. Thanks for watching this clip from the Timcast IRL podcast. Hang out with us live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. and become a member over at timcast.com for uncensored, members-only shows exclusive. Thanks for hanging out, and we'll see you all next time.